After we finished digging the base, we quickly realized it wasn't just the start of our foundation, it had become a little adventure zone for the kids. They spent hours in the sand, building a tiny bridge with us, and even managed to catch a few curious lizards wandering nearby. Although we had some fun with the kids, it was time to get back to work and make some real progress. We started by moving all the rebar cages next to the foundation holes and came up with a plan for the order we would lower them. We quickly realized that some of the rebars were a tiny bit longer than they needed to be, so we had to trim the ends to make sure everything fit just right. Once they were carefully lowered in place, we added some extra rebars at the corners and every joint. Then came the tying, each piece connected by hand, making sure everything was solid and secure. This step is crucial, because once the concrete is poured, all those separate cages become one strong, unified structure, the real backbone of our tiny farmhouse. So once everything was prepped, I took apart some old pallets. Why pallets? Because they are super cheap, sometimes even free, and with a little effort, you can reuse them for all kinds of stuff. In this case, I use them for support the rebar cage. The cage has to stay at the top of the hole while the concrete is being poured on it. It can't sink to the bottom or it won't do its job. My dad handled the lifting and I was on tying duty. At this point, we thought we were ready for the concrete, but no, we actually forgot something pretty important. So we had to make a quick run to the nearest shop to grab some PVC pipes. These pipes, called sleeves, had to be placed into the strip foundation before pouring concrete. Later, the water and the sewer lines will run through these pipes. The point to keep the actual pipes from touching the concrete so they will got room to move, and it makes maintenance or replacement way easier down the line. As the sun started to set, we had to move quickly to get our tent set up before it got dark. We grabbed a couple of beers and hung out by the campfire. It was a simple but perfect way to end the day, and we were ready for the next one. The day finally arrived, and this one was a big deal for me personally. All the deliveries started rolling in, unloading tons of building materials onto our land. Let's just say, it was a heavy day for the project, and our wallet, at 9 AM, player 513 rolled up with 10 cubic meters of concrete. And honestly, the driver was a total legend. Handled the whole thing like a pro. If concrete pouring was an Olympic sport, he would have a gold medal by now. The first thing first, the driver did was pour the concrete at the corner closest to the gate. Why? Because the truck was heavy and he had to dump some weight to be able to move around more freely. Once the concrete was in place, I snipped the wires holding the rebar cage. At this point it wasn't going anywhere. It wouldn't sink. At first, I was kinda worried we might not even have enough concrete, but turned out we even had an extra wheelbarrow left at the end. So yeah, nailed it. No waste and no extra cost. Just an hour later, the hole had vanished. It was time to make it perfectly level. My dad was handling the laser level while I worked on flattening the top. Surprisingly, it was way easier than I was expecting. Even though it was my first time doing this, I think we nailed it, and we were really happy how it turned out to be. While the concrete was setting, we were cooking lunch and waiting. And then the delivery started rolling in. First up, sand mixed with small rocks. We ordered a full truckload of it. It's one of those materials you end up using constantly during the build. It's something like flour for a baker. Next came the cement delivery, and with it a bunch of other building materials. We got stacks of wood for formwork and framing, boxes of nails, and a mix of other small but important stuff. And finally, the last delivery showed up, the Pushtak Salunkovi. It's a type of grey hollow blocks used for formwork. At this point, we were still total newbies. We were checking out every construction suppliers in the area, comparing prices, testing delivery times, and who we can trust. Once all the deliveries were done, we still had some time before we could get back to the concrete work. We grabbed a quick bite of meat stew, then took a relaxing nap to recharge, and finally cooled off with a chill session in the local pool. Well, it's more like an inflatable pool, but it did the job. A bit later, the concrete had dried enough to sand down the top and smooth out the sharp edges, so the bricks wouldn't wobble. My father-in-law took care of this part using this homemade tool, then swept up the bits afterwards. Right after, we moved and placed all the grey bricks around the foundation, and we were ready for the next step. The next step was to position the corner bricks accurately, checking both diagonals to ensure they matched, so we would end up with a perfect rectangle shape. It involved a lot of measuring, double-checking, and going back and forth, but getting it right at the start was crucial. Once the corners were set, all we needed to do was pull a string line between them and fill the gaps with the remaining bricks. The bricks were too big, so they had to be cut. One moment I was cutting like a real pro. The next I smashed a brick like a total noob. The sun was about to go down, so we cooked some chicken with pasta in our Michelin-star kitchen, and after lots of fun and a good meal, we went to charge our batteries for the next day. If you'd like to see how we continue the next day, please subscribe and come along for the ride. Thank you for watching. Mark is out. Peace.